Okay, hey everybody, this is Ryan Fann. I'm here in Savannah, Georgia, and we are going to demonstrate the process of casting a below-knee residual limb to get prepared to fabricate a socket for someone to walk and or run. I have a good friend and patient here, Mr. Henry Bryant. He is taking time out of his day to allow us to go through this process, and he also is a recipient of an ABR grant and is doing some pretty good things as far as running and being involved in the community. How many 5Ks have you competed in?
Since my amputation, I want to say maybe about between 8 to 10.
Yeah, so
yeah,
doing big things, big things. So I am going to pass the phone over to him so that he can demonstrate or just, I guess, visually record what I am doing during this process. And I'm going to be trying to describe certain things that we have going on. And if you have any questions, just leave a comment and we'll try to answer it. So I'm going to hand this over to Henry.
All right.
All right. So, how's the view? Is that pretty good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do is Henry is wearing a custom gel liner. So there are multiple type of liners, off the shelf and custom. They have all different type of materials, but for his need, we went with a custom liner. So this is a urethane liner by Autobach. So we've already got that on and we know that it fits well. So the first step is we're going to cover his leg in saran wrap just so it'll protect it from the casting material. Also, it'll help pre-compress the tissues. And there are a lot of different techniques. Some people like to pull under tension. I'm more of a loose wrapper, but I think there are different methods for everybody, and as long as you get to the right outcome, that's all that really matters. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply a casting sock over the limb so that we can make our landmarks. Basically, those are going to be the map to our success and getting to the good level of comfort. I'm going to anchor this sock down with a strap so that our marks will stay where they should and not move. All right, how's that? Not too tight?
No, that's good.
All right, perfect. You mind if I raise you up a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
So first thing we're going to do is identify the important anatomical landmarks. And when we do this, we want the patient to relax so that the muscles don't contract and hide some of those bony areas. So we're going to find the patella and mark the distal, lateral, medial, and then proximal border. I like to draw a midline just to kind of help me with orientation of my mold when I'm modifying. Second thing is just below your patella is going to be your patella tendon. So that's kind of the soft spot between your kneecap and your tibia. So you want to be able to identify that. So right now I'm palpating the top of the tibia or tibial plateau. So I'm going to delineate that. And then these are the borders of our patella tendon, and then I just draw kind of a midline right there. So this area is a pressure tolerant area, so you can apply some pressure. All right, so now I'm going to outline areas of the tibia. Now we're going to go towards the medial border. And it is very important that these landmarks be accurate because when you're modifying, you need to know where the bony areas are and where the soft areas are so that you can appropriately apply pressure. All right, now we'll go just the crest of the tibia, there. lateral tibial condyle. Now I'm going to go over to the fibular head, so we'll get the borders of that. Mark our adductor tubercle here on the medial epicondyle, which will help us get our ML and PML if the limb was short enough and required that. Henry's got a nice long lever, so we don't need trim lines that high for him. And then the last thing is we like to take measurements so that we can get our tension values as accurate as possible. There's no perfect in this world of prosthetics, but we like to get it as close as we can. So I'm just making marks every 5 centimeters. And although I'm not going to do this the way I would if I were really doing this cast, I will just demonstrate. So we would go to that level and we'll take a loose circumference and then we would put some tension on it and get a tight circumference. And based on that, that'll help us get to an in-between tension value to modify our first test socket and hopefully get to a good volume to where he's not bottoming out, but also not so tight to where it's hammocking or putting too much pressure proximally. So these are our landmarks. Here, I'm going to hold this just to give you a different view. So patella, patella tendon, tibia crest. This is our lateral border of the tibia with the lateral tibial condyle, medial border of the tibia. That's our ML. This is the top of the femoral epicondyle where adductor tubercle will be. Over here, this circle is going to be our fibular head, and this is the proximal border of the lateral epicondyle. And again, these hashes, these are going to be our areas where we would take circumferences. Now I'm going to give the phone back to Henry and I'm going to start casting. So there are a lot of different casting techniques and there are a lot of different materials. I'm going to use something called C-form, which is a synthetic fiberglass. That's just my preference. It is also common to do this in plaster. And again, there are different ways to get to a good solution. So you just, as a practitioner, got to find what you're most comfortable with and what you can produce the best results with. So we're going to wet our fiberglass so that it becomes pliable. Now, Henry, I'm just going to straighten your leg out. You let me do this, so you relax. All right, and I'm going to put it where I want to. There you go. Now hold that. All right, so you want the patient to hold their limb in a specific position and don't move around too much, otherwise your marks will move. So now, I'm going to start laying my fiberglass, and I treat it just like I do my saran wrap. I don't like to wrap aggressively, but again, there are practitioners who have a good method of being able to apply compression during the wrap, and it gets a very good outcome. So we're just going to make sure we've got enough layers so that the cast is thick. Now I'm going to go down to the distal end and kind of do a figure 8 so that we get adequate coverage. Now I'll work my way back up, and now we're just reinforcing, just making sure that we have plenty of layers for stability of the cast so that when it's poured with plaster, it can sustain that pressure. And then now, Henry, just relax, let me support your limb, perfect. It's good to have your patient relax and you support their tissue so that you can manipulate it a little easier, because again, when they're contracting, their muscles will tense up and it may be a little difficult to palpate a bony area versus a soft tissue area where a muscle is contracted. So you just oftentimes have to continue to give the patient feedback because they automatically want to tense or contract their muscles in this position. So just stay relaxed. There we go. And during this time, you can also start to apply some pre-compression. So, some practitioners like to load that medial tibial flare. For me, I like to really identify my borders of my patella tendon. So I kind of use my thumb, such as this, to get a border on each side, and then I'll bring my 2 fingers up. That'll kind of help me around just above the femoral condyle, just to figure out how much tension I can get and modify down to so that we have the best fit. You don't have to pre-compress. You can just rely totally on your measurements and then do everything when you're modifying the plaster mold. That's what I used to do for a long time, and then as I got more comfortable with my skills, I started knowing how I wanted to modify before I actually started, so I would implement some of those strategies in my casting method. Got some material that doesn't want to stick. Let's get that back where we need it. So again, this is just one of my methods, but there are plenty of other methods to get to a good outcome. But ultimately, all that matters is that you have a well-fitting socket that is going to support the patient's limb during any activity that they're going to do, whether it be walking, whether it be running, jumping, jogging, standing on your feet for 10 hours working, whatever the case may be. The socket is very important so that it can support your weight and not cause any issues that would compromise your limb health. So now our fiberglass is starting to set up. So you can see there's some indentations here. And I'm just kind of softly pressing in because I don't want to manipulate other areas of the cast by pressing too hard. Around here. So here's from my view. So again, those are our borders of our patella tendon. You can see the indentations that are above the condyles here. And I haven't applied any pressure anywhere else. Sometimes we'll support the soft tissue here if it's redundant so that we can create the shape that we're looking for in the socket. But yeah, so now the casting process is pretty much complete. However, we're just letting it harden up a little bit more, and then we'll slip it off. While we're waiting on that, I like to just take some time and just, anyone that's not aware of amputee blade runners, I would encourage you to check it out. People that are aware of it, they are likely relatives of someone that we've helped, or they are a person that we have helped. So this is a pretty important organization. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of support from many different organizations and many different volunteers to help us continue doing what we do. Nick Gamble, Aaron Fitzsimmons, obviously those guys don't even need to be talked about. What they do for the community of limb loss is witnessed on Facebook all the time from the traffic that they get through Nashville. But there are a lot of other people that are a part of what we do. We've got board members that donate their time. We've got parents of some of the younger people that we help that all put forth an effort to grow our community. And it's not just about fabricating a prosthesis so that you can run and jump. It's also about education to make sure that we can allow people to be as independent as possible with their prosthesis, because that's really what success is about. It's good to have practitioners such as myself and Aaron and other like-minded practitioners to always be there regardless of the day, the time. If there's an issue that is not allowing you to do what you want to do, we're always going to be here. But, you may not want to come visit us with every single problem. That's why we advocate education. And there are small things that someone who uses a prosthesis can do to resolve simple problems. But if it's too big, then obviously that's when we jump in and we make sure we do whatever we can to help. All right, so this is starting to set up now, so I'm going to pass this over back to Henry and we're going to slip it off. I think we got to flip it.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello. There we go.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, so as we're sliding it off, we just kind of gently work it down. Get this off of here. Fold our sock down. And if we did it right, these marks ought to be pretty accurate. Sometimes our sock will separate from the cast, but so you can see there's a little bit of separation there, but still transferred over. So we'll have to pull that out. But the next step would be to pour this with plaster, and then we would modify it, and then that would get us to a test socket phase. And I think that is where we're gonna shift this back to Nashville so that they can demonstrate that process for you. So I appreciate everybody's attention. I hope that this was educational and helpful. And again, if you have any questions, just leave a comment and we'll try to get to it. Have a good day.